So this is Zach from CFRE Radio, and today we are interviewing Pete and Scott from Dry the Rivers. So, hello guys.
Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
That's good. How about you?
Pretty good, yeah, pretty good.
We're all right, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so your debut album, Shallow Bed, came out earlier this year. So, since it's came out, like, how have your lives changed? Have they become more chaotic, or is it like just you're like kind of living the dream right now, or like what's going on with you guys?
We actually toured for about 2 years before the
years.
record came out, so in a lot of ways we haven't really had a chance to stop and think about it. We've been more or less solidly on the road now for
3 years.
For 3 years.
Yeah. So it's been pretty busy. I mean, yeah, even before the album was out, we were touring constantly and traveling around the UK and Europe and stuff as much as we could, and playing as many shows as we could. So, in some senses, it's fairly similar to how it was, before the records come out. But the most noticeable difference for me is like the different reaction at the shows and stuff. Obviously, we're slowly working our way one step at a time, building slightly bigger fan base and playing slightly bigger rooms and stuff. But it's since the record's out, it's really that cool thing of people getting the song slightly more. They have the record at home so they can hear it and they know some of the words, and you get people singing along at shows, which is just absolutely mind-blowing for us.
Yeah.
It always blows me away when I see people singing when you play in a show and you look down and people singing it back to you. It just feels really awesome. And so we've just been living the dream ever since. We've been touring around. Now we're in this big RV style bus that we're traveling around in now, which is a bit more comfortable than the little van that we did it in the first time round. So so it's small steps, and but yeah, it's been fun.
All right, cool. So, you guys seem to be part of this larger trend in music right now that's like folk rock bands coming and exploding, and a lot of them are also coming out of like the UK. So I wanted to know what you guys think about your band that differentiates you guys from everyone else. Sorry, I get tongue-tied when I'm nervous.
I think we were quite surprised when people did start kind of putting us into that genre. We didn't really realise we were a folk band. We kind of came from a sort of metal and punk and hardcore background. Those were the kind of bands we were into when we were kids, and the sort of music we were playing. And I guess just gradually there was never a thing of like, let's try and now make a folk band. I think we just gradually sort of gravitated towards this. Yeah, I started writing these kind of acoustic songs, and then we still play them as though we were in it. We're still in like rock bands or metal bands. So I guess now we're kind of, because we have that slightly different heritage, we've approached the genre from a slightly different place, and I think that is present, maybe less so on the record, but live we really play pretty loud and
We like to put on like an energetic live show, because we came from punk bands where we used to jump around and throw our hair around and rock out on stage. That's kind of how we play shows. That's what I feel like a show should be. When I go and see a band, I want them to put some energy into their concert. So you get these folk bands, which some of them are great, where they'll kind of stand there and just play and sing their songs. Where we're not, that's not what we're about. I think we try and make it kind of more visceral, more energetic, and hopefully that kind of comes across on the record and in the songs and stuff too. It's kind of that folk influence, but then played by like a band who wish they were a rock band.
Yeah.
All right, so then for your like influences then, because you guys just said that you guys have a metal and punk background, but there's also folk. So how am I going to phrase this? Basically, say you guys were stranded on an island, can only take 3 albums with you, and they best describe what your roots are. What would they be?
It's tough, isn't it?
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, of the 5 members in the band, everyone listens to completely different music, which is how we arrive at our sort of slightly odd.
I'd like to think it'd be kind of like sort of Creedence.
Yeah,
Creedence Clearwater Revival
one.
would be up there, and that's kind of the sort of
Southern
Americana
rock
southern
thing,
rock
yeah.
feel that we pretend that we were about, and then maybe like
Rush or something for like you and Johnny, your weird.
Oh, what favorite Rush band album? I'd have to ask.
Maybe
Green Cannon.
Crest of Steel, maybe.
Yeah.
It's tough. Johnny, what's your favorite Rush record? Hemispheres.
Hemisphere. He said Hemispheres.
Hemispheres, yeah. Yeah, we're big Rush fans.
Yeah. I've always been a Farewell's like my. That's. So.
And what about the third one?
Yeah, third album.
Rush records. It's a little bit.
I don't know.
That's something really. I don't know. That really folky.
Yeah, I guess that we ought to have something folky. I was thinking something like Sigur Rós or Explosion in the
Yeah,
Sky,
yeah,
something
yeah.
that sort of captures the post-rock side. Because it's kind of like the folk, a little bit of rock and a little bit of post-rock. I think are the kind of three
Yeah,
elements.
maybe,
So you pick your favourite album
maybe
out of those three
Godspeed.
genres. Yeah, Godspeed. As we're in Canada,
Yeah.
Godspeed You Black Emperor,
Yeah.
FA Infinity or something.
Yeah.
All right. So you guys formed in 2009, if I'm correct with that. Yeah.
I think so.
Sounds
It's probably right.
And you guys got signed to RCA and Sony, so that's like a huge step for like a lot of bands, like in a 3-year span, going from like just forming to like signed to a major label. So what was that like, just to suddenly be like picked out, be like major label support, money, like, and everything? Well,
It was-
I think so.
Yeah, well, not so much on the money, but they really help us out. They're awesome. But it was kind of weird. We were touring and playing shows, and we hadn't quite gone full time yet. We still had our day jobs and stuff, and Pete was still at college and things like that, and so we all had other commitments that we were doing in our lives, and we were just working and trying to do the band in our spare time as best we could. And it was actually this small independent label in the UK, Transgressive, who came to us and saw a show, and they said, we can give you, like, we want to do something with you, we really want to help you guys out. So they kind of gave us a small chunk of money, and that was enough for us to go, right, let's go for it now. We all quit our jobs that week and pretty much went out on the road on tour and just toured every day of the year for the rest of that year.
And it was in like October, and we figured we'd have enough money to survive until like January. So then by then we had to find a label to
just
fund
kind of
us.
blitzed it, and then yes, somehow out of nowhere, Sony kind of stepped in and said, the RCA UK team were really nice guys, and they kind of courted us for a while. There was this little period where it's like, oh, we really want to sign
Free
you. They'd be
lunches.
buying us lunch and trying to show us how rich they were. And we were like, yeah, really impressed by that. So we immediately said, yeah, give us the green, and and it kind of went from there. And then luckily it turned out that they knew what they were doing, and we're still with them.
Yeah.
Is there any like moments in that period before you got signed where you're like, maybe I should back, like any second guessing at all, or was it just like, we gotta go for it?
I think especially in that first period,
Yeah.
it was always like, let's just go for it.
We never really noticed, I don't think. We'd done this little publishing deal, and that was, a couple months of, enough to survive for a couple months, and we were just so surprised that we were suddenly a full-time band. The first morning where you wake up and go, wait, I don't have to go into work, or I don't have to, it's kind of like, wow, that's
It's a pretty
weird.
great feeling.
And it was kind of amazing, and we just did tiny little punk shows. We just toured solidly for those 3 months. We went out to like the Isle of Lewis, which is in the Hebrides, like used to belong to Norway. It's like off the coast of Scotland, like 3 hours by boat from like the Highlands of Scotland. We went out there and played to like fishermen in little traditional kind of ceilidh venues, and we we just went all over the place playing like tiny little punk clubs and just really enjoying being on the road. And I think like just really built up just even like the very early kind of beginnings of a fan base, and I think that was enough to kind of prove to a couple of labels that we were really committed to what we were doing, and that that we were in it for the long haul, and that we wanted to tour like heavily. And we just carried on, and it was almost seamless. By the time Sony actually signed us, I think we were just carried on touring. It took us a little while to even notice that was.
Yeah, it didn't really make much of a change in terms of our day to day. We just we already had these tours, and we already had this stuff booked in that we were doing. So it's just like,
We've always been pretty
now
careful with money as well. We toured like on the on the really small budgets, and we still try and do that as much as
try and
possible.
keep it as cheap as you can be. Although this is maybe we're living a little bit now. We kind of let ourselves live a little bit, but it's still we have to do it as cheaply as we can. And there's there isn't that much. There's a huge amount of money to be made in touring bands anymore, unfortunately, especially from album sales and stuff like that. So you have to try and make do with what you can. And we're broke, but we're getting to live the dream. So it's worthwhile. It's worth it.
Well, I envy you guys in that regard. I'm stuck in school. Want to trade places? I mean that.
Those are the best days of your life, man. You should be living it.
Yeah.
I loved when I was in college. It was great fun.
Yeah. So yeah, you guys said you started off obviously with small shows, or and I saw over the summer you guys played a couple, well maybe more than a couple big like festival type shows. So what's it like going from like a small show to like these massive festivals, then like back, like what's it like going back and forth? Is there one you prefer more over the other, or
both types of show I find have their like amazing things about them. That's not a very good way of putting that, but like we did
merits or whatever.
Merits, yeah. We kind of did these huge shows over just recently actually. Towards the end of summer we played Reading and Leeds festivals in the UK, which are kind of big for us, and I think it was maybe someone told me there's like 15,000 people watched us at one of those shows, which by far the biggest crowd we've ever played to, and it was insane. You know, looking out, you could just see a sea of faces just goes off into kind of to the back of this huge tent, and that in itself is amazing. And the sound is always so perfect on those sort of, you know, everyone's so pro and they know what they're doing. It all just works perfectly, which is brilliant for that. But then there's, I don't know, coming out here, and because we're touring much smaller venues, you know, we haven't really toured out here that much, playing in these kind of small rooms, it's just so nice and intimate, and you can, the crowd are right there, right in front of you, you know, this close to the front of the stage, you can just see all their faces really clear. And
we often like climb off the stage at points and go and play acoustic songs in the crowd and stuff, and
you can have more fun.
Yeah,
there's just more stuff that you can get away with doing in those kind of small rooms, and plus it kind of takes me back as well to, you know, how we started out. You know, the bands that we toured with when we were kids, we were playing in these tiny, sweaty punk venues, and it was, you know, the crowd would be right there, and you'd be on a stage half a foot off the floor and everything. And so I kind of love them both. I love the big ones, but also the small shows just really opens up the possibilities of what you can do. And we, you know, play around with singing away from the microphones and stuff, and just kind of going a cappella on it, and all that sort of stuff that you could never really get away with on a massive festival stage. So it's tough. I wouldn't be able to pick a favourite, but I love the fact that we get to do both. I'd hate it if it came to a point where we could never ever play a small room, you know. I think even if we got, like, someday got, you know, so huge that we sold too many tickets, I think it'd be cool to just keep doing little shows occasionally. Yeah, just because they're so much fun, you know.
All right, well, that's cool. I wanted to ask you guys about your music video for I'm blanking. No, it's the first song I ever heard by you guys, and it like grabbed me, and I was like, oh, and I'm just blanking on the name. New Ceremony. I'm a terrible person. I'm sorry. No, but I like, because I heard the song and I was like, what is this? And then I checked out the video and I was like, what is this? So like I wanted to know, like, what was the concept behind that video? Because when I watched it, I was like, this is awesome. So like, yeah.
We were really lucky with that video. There's a guy called Raul, an American guy based in LA, shoots a lot of kind of commercials and music videos and all kinds of stuff. And he just got in touch and said, you know, we were going to be in LA at this point, and we needed to make a video, and it seemed like a cool place to do it. And he sent us this kind of, you know, proposal, a treatment through, and it had like museum dioramas in it. And he was trying to explain to me, he was like, it's very difficult to kind of show you what I'm planning in, you know, in a proposal without actually building the sets and going through all this. But this is basically what I want to do. And there was enough in there that I was like, I think this is going to be amazing. This is kind of a great vision. And he was just saying that the song New Ceremony to him sounded like a load of kind of series of kind of small explosions, like loads of little crescendos in it. So he was like, if we can show that over and over again with like all these little things happening in dioramas, then that's the idea for the video. So he had like a bowl of Cheetos being kicked out of somebody's hand, and that was one of them. And then, you know, someone with like throwing a lasso and all these different things, and like a Civil War guy firing a gun, and all these and there was no kind of narrative thread. It wasn't like, you know, I'm trying to tell a story. It was more like, I just want to show this kind of interesting, you know,
sort of scenario, different scenes or whatever, and kind of set in this weird museum environment where the scenes are all kind of acted out, and
you can see people watching the scenes from, you know, so that's kind of cool. But when we got there, it was amazing. We just turned up at the studio. We didn't have anything to do with the pre-production, really. We were on tour, and we just showed up at the studio, and there were 6 guys in Civil War uniforms and Abraham Lincoln wandering around, and like what they'd done was incredible. He did it all. The budget was pretty small. He did it all pulling in favors from friends, and he borrowed the cameras for a feature film he was working on, and all the crew were just his kind of friends that worked with him at the production company, and it was like a real labor of love, and it was just amazing what they managed to achieve. All the backdrops, he'd managed to get a really good rate because he explained to the company that do them that, you know, this is a British band and they're kind of new and this is the song, and he really, like, you know, did a lot of it with kind of goodwill, and it was just amazing. And had a tiny horse he like borrowed from a company that rent small horses, and said he was like, I'll help you with your website if you loan me a miniature horse for a day. So they did that, and, you know, so there's all this kind of crazy,
a lot of favours, I think.
Yeah, it was really, what he achieved was just amazing, and, you know, it's all credit to him, really. He was the driving force behind the whole thing.
It was really cool as well, like, because we'd actually shot one video before that one. We did the video for No Rest we'd done over in the UK, and that was like really small scale, just, you know, the director and maybe like 5 crew tops. I think that was the whole number of people who was on the whole shoot. and you know, kind of everyone kind of pitched in and helped out and did everything. We turned up at this studio in LA. There's literally must have been like 40 people, lighting guys. They had tracks out for the camera. We were like, wow, we've made it now. This is LA, and this is like a real film studio.
Department. And,
Someone came and like told me, yeah, so what do you want to wear for the shoot? I was like, figured I'd just wear my skinny jeans and a vest like I wear every day. They're like, okay, yeah, let me just make sure that looks right. And you like adjusted my hair a little and stuff.
So it was a bit of an ego boost then.
We already felt like
fun,
big
man.
deals.
It was really fun, yeah.
They called us the talent, you know, and put us in a separate room to everybody else.
How wrong they were.
Okay, so one last question. So the year is coming to an end. Any plans for at the end of the year and going into 2013 and the future? Unless the world, you know, at the end.
Fingers crossed we make it one more year with this world, but if we
This
do...
tour is another, this tour now runs till mid-December. We have another 50 odd shows this year. We're in the US for these and Canada for the next 3 weeks. Then we have 1 day off in the UK, and then we start our UK tour, which is a kind of, I think, 2.5, 3 weeks, and then we have 1 day to get to Amsterdam, and then we start our European tour. So we're solidly on tour now till mid-December, which is kind of our big final like blowout tour of the year, and then we're gonna have some time off, which we haven't had for ages. We're gonna start thinking about the next record. And
yeah, we're really excited actually, you know, because for us, some of the songs that were on that first record, even though it only came out in kind of April this year, those songs have been with us now for 2-3 years, you know, some of them since the formation of the band. So we're actually really excited to get in and start working on new material. So we want to take a bit of time away from touring and get in some rehearsal room somewhere, or just anywhere we can find, and just jam out some new material, and hopefully we'll get a new album. I want to get in there and get recording it, and we're hoping to get something started so it'll be out sometime next year.
yeah.
Actually, one more quick question, because you guys brought that up. So, like you said, because even though that album just came out in the earlier part of the year, you guys have been working on these songs for a while. So you guys worried about a second album? Because, like, as the saying goes, like, you have a lifetime to write your first album, but you have like a year to write your second. So is that worry you guys at all, or you think you can like handle it pretty well? Because the first album is like really, really good. So, like, are you worried about trying to follow that up, or do you?
More like excited about it.
Yeah,
I just
definitely.
feel like it's been, you know, it's really been. I mean, some of the songs even predate this band. There's some of them as kind of things I was kicking around in my bedroom when I was kind of 17, 18. So, you know, some of those songs kind of 6, 7 years old, or they've evolved out of songs that are 6 or 7 years old. So for me, I'm just really excited to be working on a new record. And
I think it would be kind of a different process as well. You know, those songs were written over years, and you know, we played them live a bunch of times, and they'd change slightly as you play them each night and stuff. Whereas this time, it's going to be really weird to kind of go into a studio and just literally write an album and then record it straight away. So I think it'd be kind of really fun to do it that way. For me, it's like, it's something new and really different that we've never done. And I don't know, I'm not worried. I think hopefully we'll come up with something that's okay, and maybe we can sell a few copies of it.
yeah. Also, we tend to do everything with this pretty laissez-faire attitude. I think, you know, we just seem to
See how it goes and
wander through life, hoping things are going to pan out, and we'll see what happens. You know, I'm sure it'll be fine.
All right, well, best of luck to you guys. So, Pete, Scott, thank you for the interview. And yeah, so this is CFRE. Thanks for watching.